Hello, my friends, family of Earth. Where are you? There you are. Hi, welcome to the day. So let me just check all the things. Let's do a little house check. So for those of you who are new, we have a lot of people on this call, on this event experience together. I'm going to get myself more comfortable. You'll find that I am super in the moment. So I'm just checking. Hi, Laura. Laura is on the line. Laura is my everything. Laura, are you there?
I am here.
Yay. Laura, for everyone who doesn't know, Laura is in Bali right now. So she's up at 3 a.m. for us to be live together. Let's see. I want to make sure that everybody knows and understands that we have right now quite a lot of people in this on this call. So it's kind of a magical number. At this moment, we have 108, and I can see it's going to keep growing. So let's talk about our chat over on the side of your screen. You should have the ability to see chat, and there's Grace now finally getting to see it. Okay, you all are ahead of me. Hi, everyone. I'm loving it. Hi, Jennifer, Kat, Debbie, Heather. Oh my goodness. Hi, Heather. And Pax is watching too. Marla, Laura. Oh my goodness. Valerie, Alana, Diane, Val, Andrew, Daniel, Tracy, Camden. Oh my gosh. Suzanne, B, Kathy, Vicky, Kristen, Gao. Hi, Gao. Kelly, Lilia, Beth, Anna. Anyway, you all, I'm Christine. I just want to name you all because I'm loving you and I'm so grateful that you are here and you're letting us know you're here. We keep growing. And so not everyone, I would love it if everybody says hello. It makes me so happy. Truly, truly so happy. Oh my goodness, Lori you're in Egypt. Thank you, Lori, for being here. So happy to see you. Adriana, Daniel, Annie, Susan, oh my gosh, Gabriel. There's just so many wonderful human souls joining us today. And I think that's one thing I want to pause. It's not about you and pointing out people. What it is it's pointing out us all. We're all here together online, connecting at this super potent, unbelievably powerful time. And, for those of you who know me, for those of you who don't, you're going to find out that I have nothing written down. I am absolutely in the moment. I am coming to you from my fullest heart and my fullest authenticity for this now moment of my personal life experience, just like you are. And in every way, I am honored, truly, and I mean this, that you would take the time and connect with everyone here and me, and that we are, surfing these waves together. So I have a lot in mind and, in a sense, planned, but I don't write things down. I'm really have to go by the guidance and the fullest present moment that I am in, and that's what serves me best, and that's how I work best. So there's lots of things that we're gonna do, and so what I want to say to you is, sit down, take a breath, get a drink of, get your favorite drink. I've got my water and some guava juice, and I am wanting you to know that you can keep this running. You need to go to the restroom, but come back to us. We are going to take some questions on the chat. We are going to do some actual activities together. We're going to get a little feedback with that. We're going to have a channeling. We're going to have some deep dive immersion, real truth talks. Some of that is definitely just my experience, my things that I have to share with you. my journey. And the reason why is because, bottom line, this has always been coming. And I know that so many of you know that in your heart and soul. And then when we look around in the world, there is so much fear and panic and uncertainty. And we're all collectively riding those waves. And yet, the thing for us to do, most importantly, is to really come back to our center so that we individually can ride these waves, these times, what was always coming, in a way where we are really in faith and in trust of what is occurring in this world. So I have certain conversation pieces that we're going to go into, and I'm going to, let me go back up here where I went to the very bottom of all of you here, which is incredible. I'm just so grateful that you're so many people here from all over the world. And how exciting is that? So the reason I'm going down here, I'm trying to make sure that we are, okay, so everybody, I'm at the right place. So there's so many of you here, and I'm just so happy. So stay letting us know you're here. There's a lot more that have been joining us. So what I would like to do to begin is to really connect our hearts, really connect our light, really connect and know that you're being held in this conversation. Know that there are people, and I know you can envision it. So envision and see, maybe you close your eyes and see that all over this world, we're all going through the same thing. And in this moment, there's all these people, just these ones who've said hello, and thank you all for saying hello, because there's lots of people that don't always say hello, and that's okay. But all these people who are saying hello are our human brothers and sisters, and we are connecting the light of our love for being here on this planet at this time, in a time when we are going through so much uncertainty. And it's really important for me to put into place some caveats about my journey. But what I first want to do is to unify us. So there's going to be different things that we're going to do together. So wherever you are, if you're just now getting on, if you are had to go away or come back, whatever, right now for this moment, since we are live with almost 150 people online in this moment, I want you to close your eyes, and I'm just going to guide you through a very, very simple breath so that we can connect. And I'm going to sort of say a blessing so that we can unify our minds and our hearts to really open and accelerate a kind of energy connection between us all. I know most of you totally get this, but I'm just getting centered too, right? So just take a minute and let's just focus for a second. Knowing that we're going to sit here or stand, you can get up and move. You need to get on the floor and stretch and still watch me and listen to the words I'm going to say or the things we're going to share. You don't have to stay stuck to your chair. You don't have to get uncomfortable. You can just let this be how you need to be and stay present. But for right this minute, just connect your heart and get still. Think of the other 150 at this moment, people who are present in this conversation and in this connection, and how energetic particles of light are beaming from you to you and all around you, and they are connecting to those other human beings who are in this moment connected on this call in this time. And take a minute with that and just center into your heart space. Breathe how you need to breathe. Focus on your heart center, glowing, beautiful, glowing golden light. And just imagine that glowing light literally circling all around you, your whole body, like a bubble of light or an aura of light. And now just move gently to the top of your head. And kind of visualize and imagine that there's a light that is plugging into this beautiful grid system of these other souls, these other human sisters and brothers on the planet right now who are in a unifying consciousness to accelerate and to wake up a little bit more and move through the veils and the shadowy pieces of fear and doubt, and that we hold this vibration together. And if you would right now, just bring a big smile to your face because it feels good. No matter what you might be feeling and going through, allow yourself to just have one bright smile for a moment. And now I'm going to just guide you very gently, no big production here. I'm just going to mention to you that our in-breath is important, but our out-breath is even more important. It regulates the parasympathetic nerves. So here, or the parasympathetic nerve and body. So in order to really come into the present moment, we're going to take 3 really big, deep inhales. And I want you to inhale through the nose only. And I want you to hold it at the top for 4 counts. And then we are going to breathe it out longer on the exhale, slowly and deeply through the nose. So let's begin. And as we're doing that, I would like you to focus on your heart center. Breathing in through the nose, deeply in. Holding it at the top. And slowly, slowly, slowly out with the nose. All the way till you can't breathe out anymore. And now we're going to take another deep breath in. Same thing. Hold it. Relax your shoulders. And breathe out slowly through the nose. And the last one, in. Hold. Relax. And slowly out through the nose. And just feel your body soften and relax. Knowing that in this moment, you are connected, grounded, loved, and supported as we enter into this space in a true harmonic connection. So, thank you for that. Okay. So, I've wanted to come on for quite some time to address some things that not only do I see in the collective conversations, both on social media, and the news and things like that. I don't really see the news too much, but I do see the important pieces, or at least the headliners. And I wanted to address a lot of things just sort of right up front and communicate about it, have us talk about it, okay? There's a lot of course, there's a lot of fear. And there's also, in the last little bit, I think there's some people who are really starting to feel their center. And I think that that's a really good thing. If you've noticed that you've been going through the waves, then that's a really normal thing. I would think that if you were just riding this feeling not a lot and feeling like it was all light and love, then you were really not in the present moment of a radical and massive change that we are going through. And, for years, I've been doing this work for years before I even came out into the world doing channeling or any of the other things that I was or have been doing for the last 15 years, is that I was always aware that there was going to be, it was like a memory. And I think so many of us have that memory. We have this collective memory through our own particular DNA, through our own ancestral lines, because memory gets passed down in our cells and on our DNA. And we have this memory of experiences like this. We have memory of changes that are life-altering, and we are in that time now again. And so many of us have known that we were building to this time. So many of you have been doing the work. I know that. So many of you have been amplifying the way that you would serve in the world, and coming online with your own gifts and your own abilities and your own sharing and your own ways of doing that, because not everybody is going to do it the same way as you do or that I do. But collectively, we are waking up. And this has been building for the last few years. Some of my conversation today is about my own personal walk, because I want you to understand why I feel absolutely called forward at this time. In fact, in the last 2 to 3 years, I've been going through such an inner change and an inner revolution that in a certain sense, I pulled back more than ever in my whole time of this life of stepping forward and being a messenger and being a person who works in these ways. And in the last few years, I've gone through really big changes, and I've been more pulled back in a way where I'm not stepping forward as much, because there was a growing energy that had to be dealt with on different levels on the planet. A growing energy that had to be for those of us who really could sense and feel the changes coming. It was almost like, well, it's been that it's required to go in and transmute karma, transmute pain, transmute death, transmute who you've been, who you were, and thousands of lifetimes that have been building to this time where then you're in a body. And sometimes that was conscious for people, and sometimes it's not been as conscious. For me, it's been extremely conscious, because I'm given information for myself that, like, just a side note, like, to take you in a little twist here, that in the last 3 months, I had wanted to start certain programs. I had wanted to step forward and do some things on social media. I had wanted to do I was studying up plans for going on retreats, doing things in the world. My inner call was like, oh, people are going to need more connection, need more connection. We need to be with each other. And then every time I would start to make those plans, put some things down, every time I got a big halt. I got a big door close. Not because out there, a big door close in me. I would just get right in alignment with, it's not time. Don't book the flight. Don't make those plans. Don't do those things. You're not gonna. So that's a little tiny snippet of how this process has been working. So there's a lot of people on here who know me well, and a lot of people who've worked with me for a long time. And there's a lot of people who are new. And for those of you who know me well, you get to hear another version of some of my story. And I'm going to tell it to you in the beginning so we get it out of the way in a certain sense so you know where I'm coming from as we move forward. Not only was I a psychic, very real seer as a child, I also had a lot of traumatic experience in my life growing up. And that was in my now knowing it was absolutely a part of what was going to be necessary for me to work how I do now. And so I'm not going to give you the big long story. You can always check that out in another way online. There's plenty of that. But what I want to say is I was living in a sort of normal life, as we all have at times, buying into all of the ways that life is. And in 1999, I got married, and in 2000 or so, it was about 2000. Well, it was actually 2000. My husband and I at the time, we got a lot of information that at that time wasn't out extremely. There were books, but most people weren't talking about it online. Well, we didn't have online like this. And what I'm going to tell you is that I had the kind of awakening that rocked my world for about 3 years, which really kind of sent me into sort of an existential awakening about how our world is run and what is really happening. And, a lot of you have seen that stuff out there now. You've seen it for a while. This stuff that's out online right now about the various things that are happening with the coronavirus is not right now what I'm going to be talking about. It kind of lends to a bigger piece of the conversation for sure about that. But right now, it's about the fact that, our entire system has to be rebuilt. And we know that. When I got that information, when I and my husband and my family were looking at information that how the world is controlled through the banking system, an incredible book that is part of that conversation is called The Creature from Jekyll Island, about the debt system and what we've really been living in. And that was one piece, one arm of a lot of information that I got. It's really hard to reconcile that the world you had been living in is not what you thought it was. And that took me down a little bit at that time, because I also became highly aware of the trafficking of people, even at that time, that was going on and had been going on for a long time. That is one other arm of an entire system, and it is real. These things are happening, and the reason I'm bringing them up is because this is the underbelly that has been trying to be hidden. These really dark, heavy pieces of our life on earth have to come up to the surface. And that is what is happening. And for many years, Osairah and the Divine Feminine have been sharing that you are going to birth a new world. And they weren't meaning it by sitting behind your desk and doing the same old thing you always did. And then you'll wake up one day and the world has changed. We are literally the forerunners of that change. We are all it. And to wake up to the reality that that things aren't what you thought they were, and that they are really in certain places and in certain ways, certain people, certain situations, certain corporations, certain entities that basically rule the world are as corrupt as you could have ever imagined. That's an actuality. I am giving you my own deep digging research of that for 20 years. When you sit back and you watch for that long, when you watch for 20 years, that these things are being shown to you throughout history and how it built to the time when you got the first bits of information. And then there was the clear path trajectory of the intention of the agendas to come. And then you sit back like I did and watched all these kinds of different events and situations happen over time to literally reflect the truth that what you got as the information is real. That's what I've done. And I've definitely not talked about it overtly until right now. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of people who are sharing big truths. And maybe some of those big truths and the reality of what is going to be fleshed up to the surface doesn't have to be where you dive into, but at least to know that you are aware enough to understand that a lot of what has been happening in this world has not been being driven in your best interest, in my best interest, in the earth's best interest. We know this. And so one of the things I have been working through inside myself is how do we stay in knowing that these things have to come up to the surface? And some people are absolutely going to go into cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance meaning that it is so radical and so mind-blowing to the belief system that the person is carrying that they cannot let it into their belief system. So absolutely the walls go down and the absolute no's come up. There's just no way that's possible. Nobody could be that whatever, or it couldn't be that bad of an agenda, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Cognitive dissonance is going to happen for so many people because it is too and very life-altering to realize the greater truths of what is occurring that has to be clarified and cleared out. That definitely goes into this, in a sense, slave-raced mentality that we've been under regarding debt, regarding money, regarding the fact that the Federal Reserve is not even anything to do with federal, it's privately owned. Most of us know that by now, or at least are waking up to that the monetary system is a way to keep things in play for other agendas that are not ever seen, and they are invisible. They're not being as invisible any longer. And people along the way who have been speaking up have lost their lives or other things in order to keep that down, the truth suppressed. And we are in a time of truth tellers, and we have just moved into a real shift in consciousness for people to begin to own their power and understand that they are sovereign beings. And that is why I'm doing this. That's why I'm talking about, in a certain sense, the shadow, and I'm talking about the light. Because I know what it's like to go into these places and literally face the absolute darkness. As a seer, I have seen for many years, really and truly, I have seen clairvoyantly, not only in sometimes dream states, but in other states of consciousness, and also in visionary states, places where people are, where there are things going on in secret that are abhorrent to the good of life. And that's not an easy thing to see. And it's not an easy thing to know what to do with. And so I want to say, from that perspective of being that person who has literally faced darkness, who has literally seen how evil shows itself, that those levels of dimensions of consciousness are here in the invisible realm and in the physical realm. And there is a real I don't prefer that word. I want to say game. There is a real game going on here for what is to come. So in this conversation, recognizing that our world has darkness that is really real and really evil. I don't like that word either, and at the same time, really coming to a way to move through this process together, where you understand that you can recognize that there is that going on and that it's a part of this structure. It's a part of this particular time frame of our earthly embodiment. It's a part of this collective consciousness of people who've agreed to be here on the planet to unveil and let out these dark secrets and heavinesses that have been perpetrating the earth and people for thousands of years. That is happening right now. And at the same time, you can learn to hold that you know new information or the informations, and maybe you don't even know all of it, and that's okay. But that this clearing and purging and this coming up to the surface, you can still simultaneously recognize there is perfection in it, that there is a divine order and a divine plan. And I don't mean that as in the higher beings of the angels are going to come down and kill all the demons. I don't mean it like that. What I mean is there is an inherent divine orchestration of true love that is birthing through this time to make humanity and this earth and our collective consciousness grow into something greater. But we have to be the ones who are those frontier people. We have to be those forerunners who are going to go through that process. And in 20 and 30 and 50 years, if you're on this call and you're 20 something like my daughter, you're going to be 50 years later, you're going to be waking up in a new world. So this experience that we're going through has the opportunity to bring forward the greatest. And yet we have to be vigilant on how we take care of ourselves on every level. So what I find fascinating is that there's that first layer with our thoughts, of course, and our energy body, and then how we actively take care of ourselves outside, what we feed ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, how we nourish ourselves with meditation, with prayer, with remembering that we're walking through a human incarnation of unlimited potentialities. And that even in people or agendas or a long history of extreme experiences where there's a lot of dark, and extreme experiences where there's a lot of good, where there's a lot of light, that there has always been this constant walking of finding balance. We are at this shift point, though, where the balance is going to feel to us much more insecure and uncertain. But that doesn't mean we can't hold a vibration of trust and faith. So I'm going to pause there for a second. I can't read all of this on that. Yes, I understand. So Sarah, I'm just seeing this. I'm going to say this. We are going to have plenty of people who have feelings a lot of different ways. And believe me, after this long journey of mine and all the death and the extremity of the trauma that I have went through, knowing the dark side of things, I do know that we are carrying collectively all of this stuff. I am not saying it's out there and only out there. I am definitely not saying that it's just them and I have no dark or false feelings towards myself, or I don't have shit that I have to go through. I would be the first one to tell you, go within. It starts here. The more we move through our own darkness, the places where we stand up to our own fears and rage and our own perceptions, by the way, of our own filthy, unacceptable awfulness. The more we do that kind of work, we expand into the growth, what is on the other side of that. I've done this work. I know. So let me see where we are. I like this. Okay, so I'm just going to take a few questions here. We're going to get real. Yes, it's all true. Okay, so I'm reading a few things that Sarah has said, and I appreciate these things. There is no evil. Believe me, I understand that thought. Boy, oh boy, do I understand that thought. I'll talk about that in a second. This helps any abuser wake up to how. I also want to say that there's a lot of people who are going to want to share, and I'm going to do my best to get into this. Yes, totally. So we do dance. This is, I hope that for the majority of you who've ever really worked with me, and I absolutely say, because it's been my actual experience, I have had one foot in the dark and one foot in the light. I have had one foot in the invisible and I've had one foot on earth. I've had one foot up there and one foot down here. I have been navigating those realms for 20 years. I have been navigating those realms for my entire life. I recently did my own next level. It took me another full 30 years to realize that in my early 20s, I was doing deep work on my inner child stuff. This was 30 years ago. I am in my beginning 50s, and I was doing heavy duty trauma healing work. And in that way, I was just scratching the surface. I was a young girl trying to heal and grow up and learn how to live and heal from extreme trauma in my life. And at that time, for me, everything was black and white. But I had grown up with no concept of evil, actually, even though I had trauma. It was not an idea that there was evil, because I inherently had this balance, recognizing, even when I was going through things as a child, there was something that always saved me. And I mean, I'm literally telling you, there were always angels. I always was taken care of. And yet I had to physically and emotionally go through not goodness. And I want to say that I understand the idea that there is no evil. I understand it. I understand the feeling. I understand the knowing. I understand the spiritual principle of it. I also understand that, and I used to say it a lot. For the purposes of being on the earth, we have, by way of being embodied, an ability to experience everything. To label one thing good or bad is the first psychological trap. One of the greatest things that Osairah and the Divine Feminine have given me through the transmissions is neutrality, this way of seeing the world as so inherently perfect in the great dance that is happening. And then my whole faith and my whole belief system about that was put to the test based upon all kinds of death coming at me, all of my family dying, my parents dying, both of them dropped dead suddenly. And then everyone else of the core-ist people of my life, all dying. And I had to go through the kind of shocking grief that wakes you up to your own death and your own mortality in a way that I embraced. I didn't run from it. I embraced it. I opened my heart, my body, my mind, and my soul to the process of the transformation and the transmuting, that if I lost anything anymore, that if anything else what if I died, if my children died, God forbid, if any more of the people I love died, the truth is I have moved through that in a way where I understand it. I've had my own near-death experiences. I don't even call them near-death. I call them near life, because you are understanding that there is eternal life. And in eternal life and in the God consciousness of the source experience that I have gone to 2 different times in my life, I understand that there is all things, and all things come from source, and that there is not a judgment, there is only allness. And yet, when we are playing the game on earth in this way, the totality of allness is happening in this experience for everyone at the level of the consciousness that they have chosen to embody. And there is no judgment on that, none. And so when I have gotten to the full recognition of that and the full experience of knowing this, my internal faith and trust, it doesn't mean that I don't have at times fears or like, oh my goodness, like, what's that going to look like if we go through this that way? Oh my goodness, what would it look like if it happened like this? I'm going to go through that because I'm a human being. And I fully embrace my humanness. And I fully embrace the embodiedness of being human. And then I also spent years being so out of my body in being able to be allowing the hard wiring to happen through me for the spirit realm, for the light realm, for the God consciousness realm. I'm not saying that I'm God, please, not none of that. I'm saying that I opened and I allowed for the process to become through me. And then I was so out for so long that I had to work really hard to stabilize and get in to the kind of conviction that says, I understand people's fear, and I understand how moving through your fear, moving through anything that appears to you as something that triggers is your greatest freedom. People don't want to. They don't want to change most of the time. And so here we are in a huge experience collectively changing. And every individual is going to be going through their own soul's agreements for how they're going to go through this process. And there's no judgment. In my opinion, there's no judgment about that. You know, I'm over here doing my soul's growth every day, all the days leading up to this day, for years and years and years. It never stops for me. This is, I am this. That is what I do. I go into the changes all the time. I am doing deep work all the time. And I highly recommend it, because getting to know yourself means that you are so able to see that the things outside of you are a part of an equation that is and has been within you. But if you haven't transmuted and you haven't worked with the interior of your own fear, shame, worthlessness, insecurity, hatred, self-hatred, judgment, all the ways we do those things in and on ourselves first, but cannot stand that for so long that we end up doing it outside of ourselves for years. That's what has happened and happening all day long. When I look outside, I see myself. When I look inside, I see myself. But I don't say that those things are anything that I've got ultimate control over. The only thing that I have ultimate control over is my own inherent presence to transmute anything that makes this body consciousness feel all those things: fear, shame, worry, doubt, guilt, darkness, sadness. I have to look and feel those things, let them wash through me in order to become purified, to see that I am beyond, I'm not those things. And so the world is in a certain sense doing that because so many people, I'm not the only one by any stretch of the imagination, have been doing this work for years and years and years. So as we are all doing this in our own way, and that's the thing I want to say, I want you to understand, we're all doing this in our own ways. I have sessions with people over the years. I have sessions just 2 days ago. I have sessions with people who are doing these works that I am talking about in my own way. They're doing it in their own way. And that's the clearing. That's the healing. When you take the mirror and you start to look at all those things that we were looking at outside of ourselves, and you look in here, that does not take away the fact that in a certain sense, how do I want to say that? The monetary system is not something I actually built. I personally, Grace Cavanaugh, in this lifetime didn't build it, but I have been a part in the participation. And when my awakening came to, wow, I was sold the American dream, the picket fence, the happily ever after, the princesses, all the shit that I don't believe in. And I know is I can still create in my own experience and in my own life. I can still have a wonderful house and a wonderful partner and wonderful people in my life and things that make me happy by slowing down and paying attention. How do I feel? Where am I in this life? What is it that I want to be and do and give? How is it that I can help others and survive? So I want to say something here. I'm noticing all kinds of strains of thought that are coming in. I haven't looked at the thing yet here because I know everybody is putting a lot in, and I'm grateful for that. I need to pause here with this piece. I know people with the coronavirus. I know people who are sick. I know some of my clients who know people who are really, really sick. And I want to tell you that I am not in any way, shape, or form dismissing that we are going through changes, and we are going through death, and we are going through illness, and we are going through a clearing. We are going through what internally I feel like in a certain sense I was going through for many years. I have gone through some things in the last 3 years that no one really knows about. One of those things is not that you don't know about it, but I got really, really sick in 2018 and was taken to the hospital. I never go to the hospital. And I essentially thought I could die because it was so painful and so bad. And I have a touchstone to that feeling. I know what it's like to get really sick. I know what it's like to get really sick. And I know a lot of you do. I know a lot of you have moved through a lot of healings in many ways besides physical. I know that there's emotional healings. So I want to say that I am not discounting that we need to be reality. We need to be the boots on the ground, as Osairah said in the last few channelings, the monthly group that I do. We are the boots on the ground, and we are the ones who have to hold the light. And we also have to be the ones who wash our hands and take care of each other in the best and the most high and smart ways we can. We have to pay attention to the fact that it doesn't really matter on a certain kind of level, take this how you will, where the virus came from, who, what, when. Not really does that matter now. What matters is how do we hold ourselves through it? How do we hold our light, our health, our well-being, and our energetic output into a collective field that could take us in various different ways? That's my intention with our conversation today. I know a I know probably every one of those conspiracy theories out there. And I would say to you that conspiracy theories is the worst thing you could say to a person who has watched those conspiracy theories 20 years ago being touted as what was coming and what was being done, and then watching for 20 years of those things systematically happening and becoming. We're here in an age where people are going to have a real big pushback on reality, and that's okay. That's okay. We are all kind of, in a certain sense, as Osairah has also said for years, if there are 7, and I remember that because that's what they said, if there are 7 billion of you on this earth, that means in a sense we would say, and I'm kind of quoting them because it's such a repetitive thing that they say, that there are 7 billion different realities streaming simultaneously together, creating so many lines of connections, meaning the timelines of the experience you are in. So we have, I am not bypassing, but we have the ability to plug in to health and wellness and choices for love and light. We have that ability to, you can be in your own kind of bubble and thrive. And you can also take care, send love, energetically output good. You can energetically output to call people that maybe you didn't call for the last 15 years or 10 years or 5 years or 2 years. Or 2 months, and say, you know what? I wanted to call you. I miss you. I love you. Putting things into perspective through a massive and radical awakening change that some people are going to rail against and try to find the reasons. It really doesn't matter the reasons. We are here. We're here in it. And for those of you like myself and so many, probably thousands of people that I actually know and knew that this was coming, didn't know that this was coming the way it is, didn't know it was going to be a virus necessarily, but some people did. And that doesn't even matter either. What matters is, here we are. Can we walk into this with our open-hearted willingness to change and transform? And what happens is people lock on to the fear pieces and the right fighting. Oh, I'm righter than you. I knew this or I knew that. I'm not coming from that place. I sincerely am not coming from that place. I'm saying to you that my actual lived experience has pointed me this whole way, confirming so many things along the way that now I stand in this time at almost 52 years old going, wow, we're really here. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to change. We're going to change the earth. We're going to change the way humanity is. Osairah's main message from the time that I have been channeling them, almost 15 years now. Is that right? I always forget, but I started actively channeling them at the end of 2008. So whenever that was, 17 years, something like that. Their main message has always been that they are here in support of the consciousness evolutionary jump for humanity. You are birthing and creating a new world through you. That's essentially the freaking tagline that they have been sharing for all of these years. And every teaching that they have ever given has been how we empower, how we change, how we enlighten, how we wake up, how we shift through ourselves, how we remove these places in ourselves that keep us locked and stuck, and how these spiritual principles of the truth of our eternal life that is happening in these bodies will be what it is that sets us free to live a greater experience, to offer that to other people, to be that in consciousness, to be that consciousness is happening of you. You are it. So in the ways that we are shifting, my desire for this conversation was because I was seeing so much fear and so much of these pointers to it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that, it's this, it's that, it's them, it's him, it's her, it's him, it's him, it's him. And I mean, really, if we step back, we know standing in a moment of like just softness and neutrality, in a way to just observe, stand back and observe. It's all happening. All of that is a part of the total experience that we're all having. What you plug into and how you feed that energetically is your choice. Another main topic all these years for Osairah. Your choosing is, how are you choosing for your own experience to be? So I'm going to pause with that. I'm going to look here for some of the other things people are saying. Hi, Lilia. Thank you. We live in polarity at this time. Definitely. Denying there is shadow doesn't make it go away. Believe me, I know. For sure it doesn't, because it just, oh God, I have so many things I could say about that. Like I said, I kind of grew up in this, I want to say, non-religious hippie fashion, that there was no evil and there is no devil. And that is absolutely what I believed. I didn't watch scary movies because I could feel the energetic pull on them. I did not want to put that in my mind. I was a young girl, and it wasn't just that I didn't like scary movies, but I could see through it. I could see that there was an energy attached to that. I could see that there was something that was linked to. I didn't have those words, but I definitely had the awareness that that was not for me to go to. That was not for me to plug into. The same goes for here. That does not mean we don't see what's happening, because there's great abuses happening on this planet, and there have been for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. But we are here, I believe, to shine the light on that, to change that, to bring the truth, the truth of experience to the light. And that is not necessarily going to be easy for a lot of people. And that's okay. Everybody has their path. But the more of us that can get, in a certain sense, not apathetic, not compassionate, you don't take yourself away. I mean, maybe that's a part of the process. I would say that was part of the process for me. I think I got numb for a period of time, many years ago, about how it all is. But knowing my own trauma and abuse, I was like always on the side of, this has to stop. This has to be seen and changed. And that is a huge part of what is happening now. In regards to the virus, everything that I have been getting and transmuting and clearing and opening up to and seeing and feeling and knowing and aligning with Osairah and the Divine Mother has been that we're going to go through these kind of waves with it. And I guess we see that as some of the information that's out there regarding, information about numbers and things like that. On a certain level, it just doesn't do us any good to go, well, they didn't tell us everything, or it's being lied to, or it was man-made, or it wasn't man-made. All of the things that are out there. I just really, I want to say I have seen it. I understand that it's all out there, and I'm not taking one position or another position as this is the truth or this is not the truth. I'm saying, in a certain sense, this is just what's happening. And now how can we support and love ourselves through it in the highest and best ways? How is it that we can support and love ourselves and each other through it? How can we send and be the greatest versions of ourselves? Because I want to tell you that if I dropped dead tomorrow, I will have wanted to have done and served and given the highest and the best that I could possibly be and give, given my exact alignments at that time. And what I mean by that is how it is, I keep hearing Osairah coming in. How I mean by that is, what I mean by that is, it does matter what you do. It does matter what you think. It does matter for you first, for me first. It's why I cocoon. I am actually a very strong introvert. I actually stay in my house sometimes for days at a time, other than walking the dog. And I don't see or talk to many people a lot of the time because I am doing so much of my own internal working through. And then what happens is I plug back in, and I plug back in out to all that is that I'm participating with, to my friends, my family, my people, the world around me, the earth around me. And I am so grateful for having done the inner work that I can be in absolute love and joy and happiness. And I'm telling you that even in the fear and in the current circumstances, because I actually was not ever always like that. I was very often not happy, not in love, not in joy, not in my own freedom within. I was so hard and harsh on myself. I was so hard on myself. I don't even know how to say it any other way. There was a ton of pain and darkness and shadow and repression and things that I could not see. We all have blind spots, but I was always a deep diver. I have Scorpio as my moon. I'm almost a full moon baby. I am a deep diver. I do the work. I dig underground. I go to the deep depths, and I am willing to go down to where it's the putrid and come back up to the surface and go, oh my God, let me just tell you what I got, and let me give it to you, and let me share that with you, and let me remind you that you can do it too. Not everybody is wired for that, and that's why this message may not work for everybody, you know? So, okay. Let us see. Yeah. I can see that I have talked a little bit long and I apologize. I want to have these conversations with people. A few people have gone off, so we're going to go into the next stage. So let me see what I'm seeing here. What actions do you and Osairah recommend we take for changes? Are you at liberty to speak about ascension? Okay, I'm just looking at the things. Event where by many people go without, have no money. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna getting a little hot. I'm gonna be honest, right? My sweater. We're gonna go into the channeling. I think that would be helpful. I think the majority of you were here for that, and that's okay. I love that. We are going to do some breath work just to clear too, and a little prayer and meditation. Thank you, Sandy. I appreciate that. There's a lot to talk about, and I think it has to be done in ways where people can take it slowly. So one of the things I've been churning is that I want to do a bit of a talk show, you could say. I think I'm going to do it on YouTube and do all the things I do. And so that's coming. Talk with Grace, speak with Osairah. How about that? So that's one piece. Now to the channeling we're going to do. Laura, if you would, what I'm thinking is, thanks, my friends. I appreciate your support and your love and your reflection. I really do. Thank you, Daniel. I love you too. By facing, thanking them for being on my path. Yeah, I appreciate that. One of the things I would say, thank you. One of the things I would say about the interesting piece, I'm going to remind people, some people know this one because it's been talked about so many circles with Osairah and Mother Mary. You can never know where a person is at. This is one of the things they say, and it is such a great way to walk through the world with. It's a really great way. You can never know, is what they say, what another soul is here for. And they've used that in regards to everything. That you may think someone's totally dead asleep, and you may never know what it is that they're adding to the pot, the collective pot. You may think someone is inherently absolutely the worst human being on this planet, and you cannot know what they are adding to this pot. You cannot see whys and whats and hows that is serving something that ultimately maybe you are not able to see is a divine orchestration. That brings up a lot of shit for people. Believe me, remember, I had a lot of really bad things happen in my first 10 years of my life. And I would have to say in the first 15. And I know victim abuser, I know perpetrator mentality, and I know blame and shame mentality, and I know ultra responsibility mentality, and I know how it is that it takes so much courage to transmute those energies and those belief systems and those visceral, somatic, stuck places inside our body-mind experience. This light being inside this body-mind that signs up as a soul to come here and participate in the earthly walk is no small thing. We are all amazing, courageous human beings who are participating on this earth, no matter what your story is and no matter what anybody else's story is. So it's sometimes that's so interesting as a seer. I have had these extreme experiences where I've walked through the world, and I will all of a sudden get information and see things about a person or see things. I've learned to turn that down for the majority of the time. Thank you, Robert. I have learned to turn down when I see things that is maybe, well, not even maybe, that is just not my business. I don't meet you and then automatically just go, boom, I'm seeing all your shit. But I have been in public at times and I have seen things attached to people and connected to people, things they are doing, things that they have done, things that are active in their energy field, both spiritually speaking, entities, and also what they actively are doing. And it about drove me crazy because I didn't know how and what to do with that. You cannot necessarily go down to the police station and start pointing fingers and telling something about someone. And so this was a first stage initiation for me many years when I started to see that with people. I couldn't go out a lot of the time. We would be at restaurants and I would see things and I just couldn't, we would have to leave. There was a lot of things that happened like that. That first stage of my own personal initiation with that stuff led me to the next stage of the initiation when they gave that piece of information with Mother Mary and Osairah, when they said these things about how you can never know what another person's soul walk is for, why they are incarnated, and why it is they are doing the things they are being and doing. And it took me quite a while. It took me a while to work with that, to work deeply with that, to have lessons brought to me about that, to have me see that ultimately everything is transmutable. Everything is transmutable. You can transmute anything and you can return to a higher awareness that on the earth, as an egoic survivor of life, meaning that the ego is always here for your survival, you cannot, from the ego standpoint, understand what is happening at a higher level and a higher order. You just can't. So if you accept that, and if you can walk through the world and not know what everyone else is really here for, it actually makes this more absolutely amazing. You can stay out of judgment. The whole purpose of that piece of the quote that they said is so that we could look at the world in releasing of judgment. That doesn't mean you're not judging to keep yourself safe. People get so confused by that. But anyway, so it's time for us to pay attention to ourselves and to remember that there is something much greater going on here than even the small pieces that I'm talking about when I say there's been a thing in place that has been not what we thought it was, that there's definite darker actions based upon extreme trauma perpetrated for thousands of lifetimes that keeps getting cycled through our experience as human beings, being born into the cycle over and over and over again. We're here to clear a lot of that. Most of us are here to clear a lot of that in this lifetime. And we've just now moved into another time for this place. Osairah has been saying these things for years. And what I really want to do is try to put some compilations together of those times so it could just thread a bunch of stuff from the years into how it is that we're here doing this now. We're at the place that they've been talking about for the entire time that I've been channeling them. They've been supporting us to go to these places, to go through these initiations, to go through these healings, to go through these awakenings, to bring ourselves through these corridors of a lot, and then put us into this time where we're going to move into a new time. And now this new time is a place of where it's going to sometimes feel really uncertain. And this is a call for your faith. So what is it to really be in faith? This is to really trust life. This is to really trust your place in life. This is to really trust yourself. This is to really trust that there is eternalness in your now moment, that you can make this and be this and do this and walk this in a really good way, in a really high way. That doesn't mean you won't have insecurity, fears, worry, concern. It doesn't mean you won't have that. But it does mean that you can return to the faith. It does mean you can return to the trust. It does mean you can return to the higher principles of the things that you feel are the rings and pings of truth inside of you for your soul. And that's what I'm here to support. Yes, choices do need to be made. And we are making them. Oh, hi, Tutu. Thank you. So, I would like to begin the channeling, not knowing, of course, but I was going to ask Laura before I got off on all that. I see some of the things you say, and I want to answer these things. I want to be in that connection with you. So I guess if people don't want to wait, then they don't want to wait. But if you want to wait through this all, we're going to learn a lot and share a lot. It's definitely going to challenge some things for some people, and that's okay. That's okay. Okay. Oh, you just got on, Sashi. I'm glad you're here. Okay. And that's true, Jennifer. Transmuting trauma is no joke. And in a certain sense, we are all beginning a next level of transmuting trauma for the collective that we've been living in for a long time. Some of that's been hidden. Some of that's been on the surface for many people. There are people experiencing things right now that we, really have to hold a higher light of healing and love for, because we are all essentially one. And I know that from my own lived experience. So okay, so there we go again. What I wanted to say is that, Laura, I'm thinking if everybody can sort of get into this energy field with us, we can ask some questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and I'm going to start the channeling. I'm not, Thank you, Sasha. I'll just answer this one. Can anger stem from trauma? Sounds like a rhetorical question. Okay, there's that. Maybe that'll get weaved into the conversation even with Osairah. But yeah, I definitely would say that I know actually from my own anger that anger is definitely can come from trauma, of course. There's many stages of our healing with this kind of shadow work. And so, the things that we repress and the things that we have a really hard time, the body is really good at taking care of us, and we repress a lot. I also know that it's not necessary to go into these extreme places all the time. You don't have to go into dark places every day in order to, quote, heal your trauma. If that's up, then you need help and you need support and you need a good guide who understands that kind of stuff. Absolutely. I know. So that's what you just have to be able to know that what is most right for you in your life. And in time, I think why I said the other thing was like my inner child got a big dose of healing. I went into another place inside myself in the last many months because it was time and I couldn't really go there before. So there's great opportunity for us to just let the natural flow of our healing happen. Calling it in and asking for great measures of healing is a worthwhile endeavor. And then also, you don't have to put yourself through the coals on purpose to get somewhere. You have to do, in my experience in watching and being with my clients, moving through years of healing trauma with my clients, I would say that it's a natural process, as is always said with Osairah as well. You don't push the river. You just allow yourself to go to the places that are needed, and it will show itself. And then we need help at certain times with others, for sure. It's not always navigational by ourselves, for sure. Yes. Okay, there. Thank you, Leslie. I love that one. I really do. So, I'm going to say faith. So Leslie's question is, faith is the overall perfection, even if it may result in sickness or even death. So, Leslie, I think that's Leslie that I know. What I want to say is tough one because, plenty of people wouldn't like this answer. My personal answer is yes. Faith is an overall perfection, but we are always moving into the spaces of learning how to be that, how to be what is faith inside. That's my experience. I am always continuing. I'm never done, but I am always continuing to expand into my faith fullness, in spite of and including everything that tests it, everything that does not feel that I could be faithful. And believe me, I know, because when we lose someone, or if it was to say that we were sick and facing death ourselves, I can't speak to being sick and dying, but I can speak to the kind of facing of death through the process of it happening with others that I loved, both through shock and the long run of knowing death was coming. So someone being sick and dying in a certain period of time, and then shocking death. I've wanted to talk about this for years. I tend to talk about it often, that, we don't talk about death in our society as much. We're afraid of it. And then yet so many of us have the experience of death and then kind of go through it on our own, however that is, or with some support. Excuse me. But facing your own death or being sick is a whole piece of that equation. It's a big, huge crow that just walked by. I believe in my own experience from the layers that I have shed and what I feel has been the annihilation of my belief system in certain corridors, that faith can be found as a perfection inside of ourselves, given any and all circumstances. To have ultimate trust, to really have died to everything that you feel is the things that you cling to, and to still trust, knowing that everything is temporary, that everything out here is an illusion of stability, that we are playing a game with ourselves that way, that we are participating in a really incredible illusionary experience of that this is so real that I am not as real as it. That if I leave this world, I am not. And that's not true. And that doesn't mean that if I hammer my finger or I cut my arm with a knife, I'm not going to bleed and I need some help. It's not to say that. It's to say, what is the inner awareness that you have to break down that brings you to the ultimate trust and faith that life is you? That if your body gets sick, you are going to pull yourself through it, or you're going to perish the body. We will still go on. We do. I know it can be hard. Many people believe this and many people don't. Many people are facing their fears of whether or not they do believe it or they don't. Knowing that there are people that I know and care about who are sick with the coronavirus. Knowing that we have in this world now lost thousands of people on the physical earth. Knowing that death comes is a place inside of you that you have to reconcile, that no one else can do for you. No one else can bring you that peace and that faith. Thank you, Bridget. Very little support for grieving. I know there is not a lot of support for grieving, but you know, what I find is, well, for me, it was my own journey for sure. I don't know why I'm wired the way I am. I am so wired and so clear because I've had visitations. I've seen my mother. I've seen my father come to me and give me an activation on the bottom of my feet, take me out of my body. There's so many experiences that I have had as physical, true, embodied experiences that have shown me the way and back through the veils, through what we call life and death. So my support to you all would be, you know, really and truly, this is bringing up our fear of death. This is bringing up our fear of life ending as we know it. And it is, and we're not going back. I know that it's already been said, but I said it with my partner many weeks ago. I said, oh, this is it. We're, you know, trying to let him know that it's not going back to a place where we were before. We are only moving forward to a new way of being on this planet, and how you hold your frequency with that, and how you trust and how you have faith in the face of things is everything. Like, I have a weakness in my chest, in my lungs, and 3 weeks ago I was having various kinds of symptoms, and I was doing everything, and I was fighting it off. I was taking everything, pounding it, and I was going through various symptoms like a wave. I didn't have them all at once. I had them over some time. And I've had pneumonia twice in my life, and I get bronchitis literally overnight. It's just my weak spot is my lungs. It's even in my astrology chart, which is fascinating. And so I go through these experiences where my chest feels really tight as we are going through this collective experience. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to have a touchstone remembering to me that when I'm going through these physical, emotional, real life, boots on the ground experiences while we are going through this big collective change in my home with my 20-year-old and my 17-year-old, I and my partner, I am challenged to pay attention to what I am holding in my body. What beliefs am I holding? What faith am I holding? What trust am I holding? What fear am I holding? What light am I holding? What repression am I holding? I'm saying these words specifically. I know lungs hold grief. I know it's always been a thing though my whole life. So, but that's because I'm carrying a lot in order to be a transmuter. So I'm carrying the things that I'm paying attention to. So I have to pay attention to what I am carrying. And it will do nobody any good for me to take myself down a stream of thought that doesn't serve this body. And so I'm saying to you, what is it that you're carrying? What are you holding? What are you holding in your energy field? There's going to be people that are going to die. And I do not say that lightly. I do not say that without compassion to all the people that would be in relationship with those people who are dying, those family members. I don't say that lightly. I understand what it is to lose your family through death. And I also know that we are going to thrive. There are going to be people that are going to thrive. There are going to be people that are going to figure their way out of some tight places. And there are going to be people who are going to have a hard time. That's real. I'm not saying it's all light and holding love and it's all going to be blissful and we're going through a magical birthing. We are. And there's going to be not that too. It's going to feel like everything. It is feeling like everything. We're just in an unprecedented time of what we're collectively, specifically going through by being essentially the whole world stopping or the whole world quarantining in a certain sense. So we're collectively reevaluating. We are looking at what we value. We are looking at what we value. So if we're looking at what we value, we have to look at what we are holding. Okay, I got the clear message to stop, Grace, and start channeling. Okay, my friends, let's do that. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to, here we go. So just so you know, for those of you who are new, I'm just going to go away. They're going to start talking. They're going to give what they need to give or say first. And then maybe that'll prompt some questions for you. If you have some questions, go ahead and type them there. And Laura will do her best if they ask for questions. And I'm assuming they will, but I don't know. And Laura will do her best when they ask for those questions to ask your questions. So you're going to type them and she's going to ask them. Okay.